The wind arrives first, not as a gust, but as a low, sustained pressure against the turf walls, a sound that becomes part of the silence. Inside the longhouse, the air is thick with smoke that never quite finds the roof vent. It hangs in layers, grey and acrid, stinging the eyes and settling into the wool of every garment. The fire in the central hearth burns low, fed carefully with driftwood and dried sheep dung. Every piece of fuel is rationed. Winter in Iceland in the year 1000 is not a season. It is a test of preparation, endurance, and the integrity of the household. The longhouse stretches nearly 60 feet, its walls built from stacked turf and stone, the roof covered in layers of sod that grow heavier with each snowfall. Inside, the space is divided not by walls but by function and proximity to warmth. The family sleeps on raised platforms along the sides, packed together beneath sheepskins and woolen blankets that smell of lanolin and smoke. The center aisle is reserved for movement, for the fire, for the loom that stands silent now in the dim light. There are no windows. Light enters only through the door when it is opened briefly, and through the smoke hole above, which glows faintly during the short hours of daylight. The day begins in darkness. There is no dawn to mark it, only the stirring of bodies and the knowledge that work cannot wait. A woman rises first, her breath visible in the cold air beyond the blankets. She moves to the hearth and coaxes the embers back to life, adding small pieces of driftwood and a handful of dried grass. The flames grow slowly, reluctantly. She fills an iron pot with water from a wooden barrel near the door, water that was hauled from a spring the day before and is now filmed with a thin layer of ice. The pot is set over the fire to heat. Around her, others begin to wake. Children remain huddled under the blankets. An older man coughs, the sound rough and wet, echoing briefly in the low space. Breakfast is simple. Porridge made from barley, thickened with whey or milk if the cow is still producing. Sometimes there is dried fish, broken into pieces and softened in the hot liquid. The family eats from wooden bowls, sitting close to the fire, their faces lit unevenly by the flames. There is little conversation. Words are not wasted in winter. Energy is conserved. The cold outside is absolute. The walls of the longhouse provide shelter, but not warmth. The warmth must be made, maintained, defended. After the meal, the work begins. The men prepare to tend the livestock. Sheep and cattle are housed in a byre attached to the longhouse, separated by a low wall, but sharing the same roof. The animals provide heat, their bodies radiating warmth that seeps through the turf partition. They also provide noise, the low bleating and shifting of hooves, the wet sound of breath and digestion. The byre smells of manure and damp wool and fermentation. The animals are fed hay that was cut and dried during the brief summer, stored carefully in ricks outside and brought in armload by armload. Each bale represents hours of labor in another season. Each bale must last. The women remain inside, working at tasks that require firelight and steady hands. Wool is carded and spun, the spindle turning endlessly, the thread growing longer and finer. This thread will become cloth. This cloth will become clothing, blankets, trade goods. The loom stands against one wall, already threaded with warp, but weaving in winter is slow. Fingers stiffen in the cold. Mistakes are made more easily. Instead, much of the winter work is mending. Every tear is sewn. Every worn seam is reinforced. Nothing is discarded. A tunic that no longer fits one child is taken apart and remade for another. Leather shoes are patched with scraps of hide, stitched with sinew that must be softened in the mouth before threading. The children are given tasks suited to their size and skill. The youngest fetch water, carry fuel to the fire, watch the younger siblings. Older children help with the animals or sit beside their mothers, learning the rhythm of the spindle, the tension of the thread. They are taught through repetition and observation. There are no schools, no books. Knowledge is held in memory and in the body. A girl learns to spin by watching her mother's hands. A boy learns to mend a harness by holding the leather while his father works the awl. By midday, the light outside is at its brightest, though it barely penetrates the longhouse. The sky is a pale grey, heavy with cloud. Snow falls intermittently, fine and dry, accumulating in drifts against the walls. The wind has not ceased. It moves around the structure, probing for gaps, finding the places where the turf has settled or the doorframe has warped. Cold air seeps in along the floor, pooling in the corners, rising slowly. The fire is fed again. The pot is refilled. Soup is made from dried fish, barley, and seaweed, thickened with the last of the summer butter. It is eaten in silence, the warmth of the bowl held in cold hands. Afternoons blur into evenings. There is no clear division. The light fades gradually, and the darkness inside the longhouse deepens. The fire becomes the center of all activity. People sit as close as they can without being in the way of the cook. Faces are lit on one side, shadowed on the other. Eyes sting from the smoke. Throats are raw. Coughing is common. Respiratory illness is common. The old and the very young are most vulnerable. A cough that begins in autumn may last through the winter. Some do not survive it. There is no physician. There are no remedies beyond what the household can provide. Herbal teas are brewed from dried leaves and roots gathered in summer. Honey, if there is any, is given to soothe a sore throat. Heat is applied to aching joints with stones warmed by the fire and wrapped in cloth. Prayer is offered. The gods are invoked. Sacrifices are made, though quietly and without spectacle. Christianity has arrived in Iceland this very year, brought by law and by pressure from Norway, but the old beliefs have not vanished. They linger in the language, in the stories told by the fire, in the charms whispered over a sick child. As the evening deepens, the household draws inward. The livestock settle in the byre. The wind continues its work outside, reshaping the snow, testing the roof. Inside there is storytelling. An older man recounts a saga, a tale of ancestors and feuds and journeys across the sea. His voice is low and rhythmic, designed to carry without strain. The children listen, their faces serious, their eyes wide in the firelight. These stories are history and entertainment and moral instruction. They teach the values of courage, loyalty, and cunning. They reinforce the importance of kinship and reputation. They pass the long hours of darkness. Later, when the fire has been banked and the household prepares for sleep, there is a final check of the animals, a final adjustment of the blankets, a final prayer or invocation. The family arranges itself on the sleeping platforms, bodies pressed together for warmth. The air is cold beyond the blankets. Breath mists. The fire glows red in the darkness, barely visible through the smoke. Outside, the wind continues. Inside, sleep comes slowly, fitfully, interrupted by cold and coughing and the shifting of bodies. This is not a single day. This is every day. For months, the pattern repeats with only small variations. The supplies in the storehouse diminish. The hay in the byre dwindles. The bodies of the household grow leaner. Faces become gaunt. Skin grows dry and cracked. Vitamin deficiencies begin to show in sores at the corners of mouths, in the looseness of teeth, in the weakness of limbs. Scurvy is known, though not by that name. It is understood as a winter sickness, a consequence of the season and the diet. Yet the household endures. Endurance is the expectation. There is no alternative. To fail to prepare in summer is to suffer or die in winter. The Icelanders of this time are the descendants of Norwegian settlers who arrived little more than a century before. They brought with them the knowledge of survival in harsh climates, the techniques of turf construction, the breeds of livestock suited to cold and scarcity. They adapted those techniques to Iceland's unique conditions, the lack of timber, the volcanic soil, the long winters and brief growing seasons. They learned which grasses made the best hay, which fish could be dried and stored longest, which routes across the highlands were passable, and which were deadly. Survival is both individual and collective. A household that loses its livestock to disease or mismanagement will not survive alone. Neighbors assist one another, though not without expectation of future reciprocity. Bonds of kinship and alliance are maintained through gift-giving, through shared labor, through marriage. A strong network is as essential as a strong roof. Reputation matters. A man known to be generous, capable, and honorable will receive help when he needs it. A man known to be stingy, incompetent, or treacherous will not. By late winter, the stores are nearly exhausted. The household eats the smallest portions that will sustain life. The weakest animals are slaughtered, their meat divided carefully. Nothing is wasted. Blood is cooked into pudding. Bones are boiled for broth, then cracked for marrow, then burned for heat. Hides are scraped and softened. Sinew is saved for thread. Hooves are boiled for glue. The household consumes itself slowly, shedding what it can afford to lose, preserving what it cannot. And then, imperceptibly at first, the light begins to return. The days lengthen by minutes, then by quarter hours. The snow softens slightly in the midday sun. The wind loses some of its edge. The household stirs with a new energy. Plans are made for the spring work, the lambing, the planting of barley, the repair of walls and fences. The loom is threaded with fresh warp. The children are sent outside on calm days to play, to run, to remember what movement feels like. The winter of the year 1000 in Iceland is not unique. It is one of hundreds such winters, each endured by households across the island, each a testament to preparation, cooperation, and the quiet, unglamorous work of survival. The people do not think of themselves as heroic. They think of themselves as doing what must be done. They measure success not in conquest or glory, but in the survival of the household, the continuation of the line, the preservation of reputation and land. When spring finally arrives in full, the snow melts into the earth, the grass begins to grow, and the livestock are led out to pasture. The longhouse is cleaned, the soot scraped from the walls, the blankets aired in the wind. The fire is allowed to burn low during the day, and the smoke hole is opened wide. Light floods in. The air inside clears. The household breathes more easily. They have survived another winter. They will do so again.